Hello there everybody, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Redmi 5 from Xiaomi. You've probably already heard of that company, and you know that they're known for selling great phones for as low as prices can get. And it's not different for this phone because it offers you great features, and while the specs are not really the highest, you need to remember that you can buy this phone for at least only $80 if you buy the base model of it. My dad bought it for 4,000 pesos or $80, and it's almost been a year since that, and so far we didn't really have much issues with it. So in my opinion, I think that this is a very easy phone to recommend to someone who doesn't want to spend a lot of money on their smartphone. Alright, so first let's start with the design. Obviously for $80 you're not really gonna get a glass back, thin bezels, but I think that the overall build quality is great. It's an aluminum back with a plastic frame, and it's got that nice soft texture, and it doesn't even feel cheap. Well, there is a camera bump, so it won't stay perfectly flat on a table, but I don't really think that's an issue. You do have a fingerprint scanner, and for the price, this one is surprisingly quick and reliable. The look may not be for everyone, but I do like the matte color on it. The Redmi 5 is also a very thin and light phone. It only weighs in at 157 grams, and the thickness is only 7.7 millimeters. The buttons are very good too. I like that they're very clicky, and in comparison to some other phones that I've used before, these are definitely the most responsive, especially the power button. You do have expandable storage along with a SIM card slot that you can access using the SIM ejector tool. The speaker is downward facing, it sounds good, has clarity, and the bass is fine too. You know, at least the speaker is not on the back like other phones at this price range. So now we have the battery. It's pretty great. The capacity is 3,300 milliamp hours. Not the hugest battery ever, but after almost 1 year, I'm getting 5+ hours every day. And that's when I'm doing a lot of tasks like editing videos, watching a lot of YouTube, playing video games, all that stuff. Sometimes I even get up to 7 hours on it if I don't do much stuff. It has this cool charging animation too, and the charger that comes inside the box is fine. Not the fastest, but definitely not the slowest. It is only micro USB though, but for me that's not really a deal breaker. So now let's talk about the display of the Redmi 5. It's a 5.7-inch IPS LCD screen, and the resolution is 720 by 1440p along with an 18:9 ratio. It's also Corning Gorilla Glass, so it's very durable and can survive some falls. Not the highest resolution display, but because it's only an HD panel, it's actually very beneficial for a much better battery life because you're pushing much less pixels. It gets bright enough and it's fine for outdoor usage. It also gives you some color profiles with contrast settings too. There is a reading mode option too, which is pretty cool if you want to get rid of the harmful blue light on the display. I always have it on, and it's definitely better for my eyes. Good thing though, this phone doesn't have a notch. Most phones at this price range would go for the notch, but for me, you know, I would take a top bezel any day over a huge notch unless it's a teardrop one. The teardrop notch is pretty acceptable for this price range, but I would still prefer this bezel over a huge notch. It's running Android 8.1 Oreo along with Xiaomi's skin on this device. You can update it to MIUI 10, so unfortunately you can get more updates here because this phone stopped updating I think last year. It's very lightweight, and I'm actually a fan of the skin because of the great performance optimization. I don't get much issues with this OS. There's also a game booster that doesn't let pop-up notifications interrupt your gaming experience. On MIUI you also have these really great gesture controls that replace the standard on-screen buttons, and I just love how fluid the animations are and how responsive it is. It's really simple. You have a swipe up gesture to go home, swipe up and hold to show your recent apps, swipe from either side to go back, a swipe again from any side, then hold to go to the previous app. I don't think I'll go back to buttons right now because of how good the gestures are. Alright, so now let's go over the other specs of this device. The chipset is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 450 along with an octa-core 1.8 GHz Cortex-A53. Storage for this version though is only 16 GB and the RAM is 2 GB, but you can also get this phone for 32 GB 3 GB RAM, 32 GB 4 GB RAM, and probably the best deal, which is 64 GB 4 GB RAM, and you're not even adding much money to buy that version. 64 GB one, you probably pay an extra $60, so that'll be $140. Now while the RAM for this version is only 2 GB, I don't really experience much lagging issues, and for some reason the only app that eats a lot of RAM for me is PixArt. Yeah, the app I use to make thumbnails on. And now let's go over the cameras of this device. The rear camera is a 12 megapixel sensor with an f2.2 aperture, and it can shoot 1080p videos at 30 fps. You know, it takes pretty decent photos. Sometimes it's overexposed and the autofocus is not really that great, but it has pretty okay dynamic range, and it's definitely better than some other entry-level smartphones out there. Saturation is okay, the camera app is good, you have a few controls there, manual mode, but of course there's not really much settings there. So I think overall this is a great entry-level smartphone for people that don't want to spend $1,000 on their smartphone. You have a good display, good build quality, good performance, maybe not the best camera. You also get, you know, great battery life out of this. You get the idea. This phone is definitely better than other $80 smartphones. You can add a little more for $140 or $130. You can get the 64 GB version, which is absolutely a great deal, you know, great value for money. That's all. Let me know what you think about the Redmi 5 in the comments. Please leave a like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers on this channel. So yeah, stay blue, my friends. Goodbye.